Hi, this is Mary Mason from Connections House, and I'm here with the latest of my road stories. So I'd been mixing Nick, 25, 28 years, when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announces they're going to come out and collect the bus Further. Further had been Ken Kesey's bus. That was the bus from the real magical mystery tours that he drove all around the U.S., spreading acid far and wide in 1964 and 65. The real electric Kool-Aid acid test that, Tom Wolfe wrote about in his book. So they're coming out to get the bus. And so to do it, they're going to hold this big concert, an all-day concert in, God help us all, the Fillmore. And all the old bands are going to come. And so they invited Nick. Well, they didn't know from Nick, so they had him listed in mid-afternoon. Okay, Nick didn't mind. He could be done and then sit around and harass all of his friends while they played, right? So day one is sound check. Well, I showed up and I introduced myself to the pros from Dover, from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, these kids in their mid-30s. Okay, kids to me in their mid-30s. And they're kind of like dismissive. And when your band comes on, you can come up and help. So I start walking toward the stage. Now they're trying to sound check Terry and the Pirates. They don't know Terry and the Pirates. They don't know that they're old Hells Angels who started a rock and roll group. Still ride on the weekends. They're wearing their mufti. They're not in colors. So the guy on the stage says, "You're too loud. Turn down," to Terry. Just like that. And Terry says, "Like hell." And he says, "You better turn down or you're not going to be on this stage." So Terry says, "Like hell, I've collected my minimum," and takes his guitar strap off and starts walking down the runway toward the soundboard. And the rest of the band starts taking their instruments off too because they know it's going to be one. And so I lean forward and really loud I yell, "Hey, Terry, it's Mary, Nick's sound lady." And he turns and looks at me as he's walking. And I say, "Hold on a moment. That doesn't know. I'll take care of you. Let me go back. I got you covered. Just go ahead, you boys." And the boys start putting their gear back on because Terry has stopped and is listening. I said, "You go ahead. You want to be as loud as Nick, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll make sure you're as loud as Nick. Don't worry. Oh, by the way, I need a little less soundstage. Could you get your guys to turn down a little? It'd really help me." He says, "Oh, sure, no problem, Mary." Now, by the time I'd made the maybe 15 steps back to the board, the sound man who realized that he just avoided something, because all the old rockers were going, "Oh, man, she just saved you. You don't know." And started explaining that Terry was perfectly capable of coming back and beating him to a pulp and leaving him in a bloody heap on the floor if I hadn't intervened. And so he says, whatever you want, lady." So I sound check Terry, and then he says, "How about we do your band next?" "Sure." We sound check my band. "Need anything else?" "No, I got it covered from here. I'm fine. Okay. I went home. Next day comes the show. And the first couple acts get on. Now, the first couple acts were a couple cover bands. They got on, they got off. No big deal. And the next band was supposed to be Nick. So I'm at the board. And the word comes back. "Oh, It's a Beautiful Day won't follow Nick, but they'll open for him, so they've swapped places." It's a Beautiful Day. Now, they did have a number one record, which Nick never managed on his own, just the ones he produced for Janis Joplin and such like, and Brewer and Shipley, and, well, anyway, that was his producing years. But I said, okay, this is typical. Who's next? And I looked at the list, and it was Big Brother and the Holding Company, and Jefferson Airplane, and John Fogerty with Creedence Clearwater. In other words, all the Fogerty boys were there from El Cerrito. By the way, that's the bayou they came from, El Cerrito High School. And Grace Slick and all of these people. I said, I don't think Nick's going to be on till the finale. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I don't think any of these people will follow Nick. He said, oh, well, we'll see about that. And he called the stage manager, who began talking to them. And what he heard time after time was, you want me to follow Gravin? Oh, no, I'll open for Nick. And so I'm sitting there, and band after band is coming up. And then came Terry and the Pirates. And the guy looks at me scared and said, you're mixing, right? I said, yeah, I'll mix Terry, no problem. Came the next band, and the word comes from the stage. Leave Mary on stage. Leave Mary mixing. They want Mary to mix. So that was about 4 p.m. Long about 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm still mixing. We have gone through John Fogerty. We had a great Creedence set. We've gone through Grace Slick doing White Rabbit. We've gone through, It's a Beautiful Day we've gone through The Horse with No Name. We've gone through Joe Walsh from the Eagles, Joe Walsh. And they finally are saying they're going to put Nick on at 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, yeah, I told you. I said, he'll be the finale. Oh, no, we have a secret for the finale. I went, no, Nick's going to, you'll see. So Nick had sound checked with his quartet, and he went on with 9 people. And that's when I found out he was going on with 9 people. And by the end of the first song, we had 14. And by the end of the third song, I was out of channels. I had a 48-channel board, and we were starting to steal mics from the drum kit. By the end, 2 songs later, there were no more channels. We just told people, borrow the other side of a Fender Twin, borrow half of a vocal mic. If you want to join, go for it. And the stage manager, who was supposed to be the stage manager from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the sound guy from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, literally were kind of cowering in the corner. My guy Lynx had been managing the stage most of the night, and they mostly just sat there going, yeah, that's what they said to do. Yeah, I know, but that's what she said. That's what he said. Okay, I guess that's what we're doing, over and over all night long. And so Nick's playing, and the guys are playing, and I'm mixing, and I'm having a ball. I've got 47, because one was my reverb, 47 active channels of instruments to play with. I have some of the finest musicians of the 20th century on stage, all playing and enjoying themselves at once. This was my favorite job. I was having things like the guy coming up and going, you've got Martin Fierro's going to come up on sax. Okay, he'll be on 23 or 24. How can you know? No, that's where, don't worry about it. Because they didn't understand broadcast standard. Lynx and I knew where everybody was going to have to go. Saxophones go in the horns, which are in between guitars and drums. They're always there. That's every broadcast booth in the nation. That's where you'll put them. When we have this kind of gig, you do everything to the broadcast standard. That sounds so dumb and so basic. Why would you learn broadcast standard if you're not working for a Because what if your YouTube video gets caught up and goes wild and goes viral, and it's not made to broadcast standards? They can't broadcast it and show it on TV because it goofs up theirs. They have to go through all kinds of digital conversions to do it. That can happen. This is why you learn broadcast standard. And maybe you're just a mixer in a little tiny nightclub and for a little tiny band, but suddenly you're with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and you're doing the finale, and all the living rock gods of your youth are on the stage in front of you, and you're able to enjoy it because you and your partner are working broadcast standard rules. And so in the middle of it, I suddenly look up and go, oh God, get a compressor on. He'll be on 40. Put a compressor on 40. Now, I believe that the best button on a compressor is bypass. If you don't know what a compressor is, you lucky person. It's a piece of equipment that can be used to great advantage, but it's often abused by people in the industry. It can distort sound very easily. And I normally don't throw one on a channel, but I've got to tell a dirty secret on Huey Lewis, because that's who just appeared on stage. Huey Lewis has a good voice, but it's a quiet voice. He can't belt and stay on pitch. He sings very quietly. So you leave his mic turned way up so he sounds wonderful, the way you all think of Huey Lewis as sounding. But then, without warning, he will reach in his pocket, pull out a harmonica, and start blowing right into that microphone. Now, everyone who knows sound is going, because what that gets you is very loud feedback, because you've got that mic cranked way up for his vocal, and a harmonica makes a lot of sound, and it's making everything feedback. But if you put a compressor on, what a compressor does is it takes all that heavy signal and compresses it down to a level that it doesn't feed back. It's about the only time I use a compressor to save me from feedback before I can grab that fader and get it down, because the sneaky thing is he'll start playing facing away from the stage. You're over here. He's facing this way. You don't catch it. That's when a compressor comes in handy. So Huey Lewis starts playing. Well, Huey sits in with Nick all the time. Huey grew up sitting outside the Sweetwater, a club in Marin that Nick played at twice a month for 30 years, playing harmonica and learning stagecraft, watching Nick. Nick was one of his musical gods as a kid growing up in Marin County. So Huey sits in, and Sean Hoppers appears on the keyboards, and everything's fine. And the guy from Rock and Roll Hall of Fame looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, Huey's up there. He's the finale." I smiled and I said, "Yeah, I told you, this is the finale." Now, you got to understand, by this time we're at 3 a.m. and the guys are playing and having a good time, and they're going on. It's about 50 minutes later. It's almost 4 a.m. And I hear a lot of rocka from the guys on the clear comm talking to each other, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame guys, and then he comes over and he taps me on the shoulder and he says, "How do you make them stop? We're in golden time, and we're about to double that at 4 o'clock. We gotta make them stop." See, union guys go into overtime after 8 hours, and after 12 hours, they double that. It's called golden time. because you might as well pay them in solid blocks of gold. It's so expensive. They were running out of gold in time and were about to double that. No one wanted them to go platinum. So I said, oh, have Lynx, who is my partner backstage, tell Nick DeKalb Blues. What? Have Lynx tell Nick DeKalb Blues. Okay. That's what she said, DeKalb. And the song, and Lynx goes up and says, hey, Nick, DeKalb Blues, which is always the song Nick ends every show with and has for over 60 years at this point. Nick looks at the clock, goes, oh, right, and does DeKalb Blues. And all of his friends know, oh, this is the closing song. Now, they proceed to do 13 minutes of DeKalb Blues. I mean, everyone had to get a solo in, and there were a lot of solos. And the guys are now talking, we'll try. Maybe we'll make 5 o'clock. Yeah, tell them maybe we'll make 5. And I lean back and go, what are you talking about? I said, well, how long is it going to take us to clear the stage? It's going to be at least an hour and a half to clear that stage. I said, no, we'll be out of here in an hour. No, he looks at this, literally people almost dripping off the stage. There's no way. Yeah. DeKalb ended, and I got on the PA and just said, boys, we need to clear this out right away. ABC's coming. And I said, ABC, and I said, alcohol, beverage, and control. Because remember, alcohol, these guys, they're from New York. They have different things. ABC is the California name of the people that controls your liquor license. And to clear any nightclub, you just remind them, our liquor license depends on you getting out on time. And they know we back up and we get out on time. We had the stage cleared in 20 minutes. We had everyone out the door and packed up and out in 40. They took longer to tear down their mics than we did to clear all the instruments and all the amplifiers and all the drums off the stage. We had 3 full drum kits, by the way, at that point. And so it's time, I reach up and I start to zero out the board. Now, you've seen the boards. You've seen how many knobs and how many faders and how many things there are on a big soundboard. Well, polite, if you're borrowing a board, if you're using someone else's board, when you're done, you turn all the knobs to 0. So they're starting fresh with the next mix the next time. So I start to zero out the board because I'm a polite person. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame says, no, oh no, don't touch anything. And he's taking pictures of the board and the side gear. And I kind of listen, I look at him and I said, why are you taking pictures? He said, you got all those people happy all at once. I couldn't make most of them happy in sound check. He said, you walked in here, you didn't know our gear. I couldn't. They brought it with them. How could I know their gear? He says, and it sounded good, and they were happy. And your partner on stage, everyone was happy with the monitors. And, yeah. And I'm waiting for him to get to the point. And as he repeated himself, I realized that was the point. He had not expected to make the bands happy. One of those nights when you're expecting and you have it all blocked out for a quartet and 28 people with 19 instruments appear on stage and 3 drum kits. And you get to mix them all for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, no less. That was the night I figured out that I shouldn't be intimidated by the pros from Dover, because even when they come from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, sometimes they're not ready for Hell's Angels, old blues men, and just how wild a jam can get when everyone's happy on stage. Anyway, that was my encounter with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and why I don't have to pay money when I go. I get free passes. This is Mary's Road Stories from Connections House. I hope you enjoy them. See you next time.